Just so everyone knows. Great. So just a bit of introduction. My name is Minde. I am the co-founder and CEO of BYP Network, a platform that connects Black professionals with each other and corporations. We're super excited to be partnering with Checkout.com on this. I feel like I know so many of the Checkout.com people from just years of knowing them, essentially, from different organizations, and their stories are truly, truly incredible. Just a bit about BYP. We've recently hit 50,000 members. We have a platform that you guys can download the app or sign up online to. And of course, we have events such as this one, and we also have our leadership conference coming up at the end of the month. But I'll probably talk a bit about that at the end. But this event is all about how you guys can trailblaze in your career. One of our panelists done something in their career.
Oh, it's the BIP that thing that had already run.
Mute, please. There we go. They've done something exceptional to trailblaze in their career. And I know even as I'm saying that, I know they're like, oh my God, no, I haven't, but they actually have. We don't believe in imposter syndrome here. We believe in excellence, leadership, and just community. So I'm going to get them to introduce themselves. So let's start off with Joy.
Yeah, so thank you for having us. And I'm Joy. I think everyone here knows me. I work in the people development team, so I work as a people development associate, and I primarily work in onboarding in London. So I onboard all of the new joiners who start at Checkout.com. I've been at Checkout for 5 months, so I'm fairly new, and so I'm really excited to kind of make a lasting impact in my role here.
Camilla?
Hi everyone, I'm Camilla Robinson. I lead on diversity and inclusion and internal comms at Checkout.com. I am our senior culture specialist. I've been with Checkout.com for just over a year. So I started on the 1st of July last year, although it feels like a lot longer because obviously these are kind of strange times where we don't really know what day it is. I have a degree in psychology. I've worked in kind of leading tech companies for a while, been in HR for I think about 7 years now, and have kind of career transitioned along the way. And I guess we can get into a bit of that later.
Amazing. Anselm?
Anselm here. So I joined Checkout just over 2.5 years ago. I'm currently based out of Checkout's Dubai office. I lead the customer operations team out here. I think my experience spans a couple of fintech companies as well as working for one of the largest banks. Kike and myself go back a few years. Used to work with Kike, I think, in my first job out of university. So yeah, that's a little introduction to myself.
Oh, and Jean-Marc.
Yes, so I'm Jean-Marc Nourel. So I'm actually the country manager for France for Checkout.com. I've joined the company like a year and a half ago now, and like being in the payment industry for like 6 years or something like that. And previously owned my like a little startup in France for a crowdfunding platform for students, basically.
Amazing. So as I mentioned, this webinar is all about trailblazing. Those of you that are here listening, you all want to do something different maybe in your careers. You want to know how to become senior leaders or just even break glass ceilings. So what I find interesting about Checkout.com is that they've allowed their employees essentially to take up new initiatives off the back of whatever they wanted to do. And I think what's quite interesting, especially from what I know about Anselm, obviously going back to our days in Iwaka, is if you have that confidence that you have an initiative to drive, the company will listen to you. So my first question to all of you is, what is the most trailblazing thing you've done in your career so far? And what gave you that confidence to do it? And let's start with Anselm.
Sure. So I'll probably say the one that kind of stands out in my most recent memories was taking the steps to form the company's Middle Eastern and North African customer operations department. I joined the company based out of the London office. And, I think almost a year or more, just a little bit over a year into my time at Checkout, as we obviously raised some money, we were looking to kind of localize our global strategy. There was a need for us to kind of, start up a department in the Middle East. And I still kind of remember the conversation, the way the conversation started. So funny enough, I was in a meeting with a few people in senior leadership. And the question that was actually posed to me was whether or not I wanted to help, train whoever they kind of got out here to be the lead or the manager. And a few moments after that, I kind of just thought to myself, as opposed to training someone, would it, what benefits could I kind of add to the role, or would it be a good idea for me to kind of move out here and start the initiative myself? And very quickly afterwards, I sent a message to one of the guys in senior leadership and kind of just asked him, how he would feel about me moving out here. And honestly, in 10 seconds, his answer was like, great idea, let's do it. And, within, I think, a few weeks of the conversation being had, I was, packing my things from London and moving to the UAE. So, I think that for me probably stands out the most in terms of, giving me the confidence to kind of, take the initiative. I think, it's more or less, the company culture. The company pushes us individuals to kind of do things differently. They push us, they give us the confidence to kind of move forward with any initiative that we might have. And yeah, that kind of gave me the background and the confidence to move ahead with what I thought would be a good addition to my resume.
And what if Checkout.com didn't, allow you to do that? Like if it wasn't a company that had that type of culture, how do you think you would have approached that differently?
I think there's a huge culture of feedback. So if that was not the case, I probably would have been given feedback in terms of, what I need to do to get to that step. For me personally, I wouldn't have taken it, any kind of way, in any salty way. I probably would have just kind of accepted it and moved on and realized there probably wasn't the opportunity for me. But I think, the company has a great culture of feedback, and I would have been told reasons as to why that would not be the right step for me, or why, perhaps they're not looking for someone of my profile. Okay.
And if you were to then have trained that person who you might have been able to see that maybe you have more skills than that person, I know that, again, it's hypothetical. How do you think you would have approached that situation?
Again, I think, we'll probably, discuss it more throughout the conversation, but I think, leadership is not really something that is necessarily a position. I think, you can show leadership in various ways. And I think, if I had, the opportunity of training whoever was hired, that would have just been another way for me to kind of showcase my leadership skills more than anything. So for me, I would not have felt any type of way. I would have just, kind of gotten on with the task and pushed ahead.
Okay, cool. I'd love to hear from Camilla next. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to answer them and put them in the chat. And we will get to them at the end of the webinar. So Camilla, what about you?
I actually find this question quite tough. I don't necessarily think of myself as a trailblazer. I guess I have changed careers a couple of times so far. So fresh out of uni, my first kind of career iteration was as a beauty buyer and fashion merchandiser, and then kind of transitioned into HR. And then kind of along the way took on a secondment opportunity in internal comms and engagement, which at my previous company actually sat in the marketing team. And then we were kind of reorged into strategy. And then I've kind of moved into Checkout.com, where I sit in the people team, which is HR again. And I guess each way along the way, I've kind of just shown up as my authentic self and given feedback and shared my perspective and kind of the experience that I've gained along the way. And I guess kind of inadvertently that has maybe opened doors for others to also do the same. That's feedback that people have shared with me, that seeing me kind of be authentic, be myself, kind of give that real feedback that is needed and that different perspective has allowed them to do the same thing. So I guess it is quite different to Anselm's story in a way. And I guess, I don't know, for me, it just feels like maybe this is my way of being trailblazing. It's not necessarily kind of changing countries, not yet. Maybe that will happen as well at some point. But I've kind of trailblazed in my own way, really, by hopefully opening the door for others to also kind of be authentic and kind of stand up and share their opinions too.
Would you say you've had a bit of a career change during your journey?
Yeah, definitely. So going from working for a department store kind of head office into working for tech companies, and then kind of entering the payments industry and FinTech, which, to be completely honest, I hadn't actually heard of before Checkout.com. But I found that it's such a fantastic opportunity. So all of the amazing things that I've been able to do, I've only been with the company for just over a year so far, and already I've been able to kind of build out a team, kind of set our strategy for diversity and inclusion, set our strategy for internal comms, work with senior leadership and really determine what we're going to do as a company in terms of D&I. So, for example, partnerships with BYP Network and things like this have been really, really great. The people that I've met along the way, it's just been amazing. And considering I had never heard of FinTech, I'm like, people need to know more about this.
What gave you that confidence to go from a department store all the way to FinTech? Like, what was that drove you to make that change?
I think it reminds me of some podcasts that BYP did a while ago. So that why not lead thing. So I think you have to just kind of stand up. So when opportunities come up, although you may feel scared and you may feel like, do I have a message to share? So even thinking of today, like being completely authentic, I was like, do I have something that I can add to this conversation? Can I bring value? I think you have to just think of, you do have a different perspective. Everyone has a really valuable story. And, you know, our kind of life experiences and things that we've picked up along the way do add value. So who are you to not bring that and share that? And in you doing that and you being authentic and being yourself and bringing all of your experience to the table, you do inadvertently open doors for others, allow others to step up and be themselves and open up. Yeah, I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, and I guess that is being a trailblazer, right? You're doing something different that others may not have done, so that those behind you can easily kind of go through these doors that you've now opened. And that is what we need from the community, right? We need others to be trailblazers, because we know there is a leadership problem. You know, there's not enough Black leaders in organizations, and there's not enough of us kind of pushing through the pain, I'd say, or pushing through these glass ceilings, because it's hard, you know, like our mental well-being matters. So I guess this conversation is really about how those on this call can kind of take control of their careers, right? And regardless, open those doors for others. So it'll be interesting to hear from Jean-Marc.
Yeah, definitely. So to answer your question, I think I will tweak a little bit your question, actually, because the question is what is the most trailblazing thing in your career? I would say like in my life, basically, because it was like in the introduction I've done, which means that the most trailblazing thing was basically to actually launch my company at some time. And I'm talking about life and not just career, because like when you're an entrepreneur, it has an impact on everything, like on your whole life. And this was like the most, for me, the most, the moment where I had to do so many things, and I've actually gained confidence, a lot of confidence compared to all the jobs I had before and the responsibilities I had before I've started my company. And so I've run this company like for 2 years or something like that, and it totally changed the way I'm now seeing leadership and how I can actually provide something to a company, provide my knowledge, provide my skills. So it's definitely something that is that has changed my vision of what I can bring to within the daily work, basically.
I'd like to touch on that a bit. So you made a company for about 2 years. Where were you before that company? And then when you made that company, how did you then progress within checkout.com?
So basically before starting this company, I was working in the IT industry. So for companies such as HP, for instance, and I don't know, I've just decided at the time to actually launch something. I wanted to actually launch a startup, and I was just waiting for the right idea, and it came like this, all this crowdfunding market at the time, and having like a crowdfunding platforms means like you need a payment solution. So I've integrated at the time a payment solution like from a French company, and like 2 years after, this company just came to me and offered me a job to actually help them to develop the business, because because I knew their solutions, I knew how to sell it, and that's mainly the way I've entered also checkout.com that needed to actually open its French office. So that's why I'm saying this. I'm always saying about like, I'm always telling about like this this startup, because it was like, for me, a really it was a shift in my career, definitely, that is allowing me today to be within checkout.com at this position.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I always say to people that actually starting a business can mean that you jump certain ladders in your career. So let's say you leave a company, you build a business for a few years, and then you come back to the company, you would have skipped some promotional steps because of all the things that you've learned. So I think that's a great example right there of what you did. You know, okay. And that's a great example right there of what you did. And I think that in itself is trailblazing. It is still your career, right? And I guess the confidence came from building that business. Obviously, for those on the call, they might not be entrepreneurial. So what is the advice you'd give them, you know, in terms of from what you've experienced that isn't entrepreneurial, but the lessons that you got?
Yeah, so from our experience, I think like the main thing is about like having confidence. Either you are like building your company or not. It's not about that. It's really about having confidence and be sure that if at some point a company gives you some responsibilities, or you feel you have like the skills to actually do something, like you have to be confident about it and yeah, prove that you can do it. So for me, it's the main thing, like confidence.
Okay. Cool.
I agree. I think if you don't mind, Kike, I'll just quickly build on what Jean-Marc said. I think you don't always have to be an entrepreneur to kind of bring those entrepreneurial skills to work. Like, I've never had a company of my own. However, I feel like I bring that entrepreneurial spirit to my job every day. And I think I'm lucky enough that I work for a company that encourages that. So I joined the company as a specialist last year and have been kind of promoted to a senior specialist because I showed that, you know, there was extra things that I can do on top of what I've been asked to do. So, you know, whether it is kind of building those networks, working with people in different departments and collaborating, bringing ideas to the table, bringing my perspective, like I said, I think that's been really key for me, just really speaking up and bringing in maybe a voice that hasn't been heard before and bringing something new to the table. I think you can absolutely be entrepreneurial within a company. So obviously it is fantastic if you're a CEO of a company, but you can still be kind of a CEO of your own role and bring those same skills to the table.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's called what's it, entrepreneurship. I think we did it in our conference last year, and it's true. And companies want entrepreneurial people in their you know company. You don't have to go out and build a business, but you have to have that ability to take control of your career, right? Take control of an area, department, and care. I think that ultimately what it means, like how much do you care about this company succeeding, even if it's not your own. So let's hear from Joy, the newest, one of the new employees at checkout.com.
Yeah, I'm with Camilla on this one. This was quite a big question for me, because when I think of a trailblazer, I think of someone like Afua Hirsch or Edward Ennifer or Akala, someone in like a leadership position, but we all kind of blaze a trail in our own way. And in the context of myself, you know, I came to Checkout and this was an unfamiliar industry to me. I'd never worked in people development or even been part of a people team or worked in HR. So I suppose it was kind of taking that leap into the unknown and having a confidence in my abilities. And, you know, I come from quite a strict African household where my mum was Ghanaian and my dad was Indian, and the career choices that were fed to you were you're either going to be a doctor or a lawyer, you're going to be working in finance. And so anything that deviated out of that was kind of unrecognized. So it was breaking that mentality, which I think is difficult, and realizing that you can be successful and make an impact outside of those areas. And for me, I feel like it's still really early days at Checkout, and I have that kind of imposter syndrome feeling of saying that I'm trailblazing. But I think I'm really lucky in that I'm working in onboarding, so I get to see everyone who joins the company and have an impact on their journey here. So it's a really kind of exciting position to be in, and I'm really kind of confident that I'll make a lasting impact here. And I think the key here was, and the confidence came from kind of knowing what I wanted out of a career. I think Checkout is a kind of place where you feel confident in your career development and you do feel like you are making an impact in the company. So yeah.
Amazing. And I guess as a recent graduate, like, did you expect this from the world of work? Is there anything that's kind of surprised you, or have you even been able to surprise yourself in terms of what you've been able to achieve?
Yeah, do you know what? That's a good point. I think as a recent graduate, you have that pressure to kind of jump straight into a grad job and, I don't know, work in the city, sell your soul. But it's been really kind of eye-opening to me to work somewhere like Checkout, where, you know, you do get out of the job, you know, what you want out of a job. You can see prospects for development. You can see where you're making an impact. So it's been kind of really interesting for me, kind of being fairly new to the world of work and kind of navigating my way.
I think there's a piece here about kind of working at a startup versus, you know, a big organization. And obviously checkout.com, I don't know if you would call yourself a startup, but it is a fintech company. And a lot of kind of fintech graduates might go to the finance world. So I feel like I'm that same person. I worked in fintech as well out of graduation. And it was that ability to kind of take control of my career straight away because of the culture. It was so fun. It was so like peaceful compared to like banking, where I just always felt on edge, and it was so, you know, scary in a way. And I'm sure it's the same thing at checkout.com. Like for those people on this call that are interested in applying for roles at checkout.com, you know, hearing the fact that, okay, it's a place where they can kind of, you know, progress in their careers and put initiatives out there and be listened to, I'm sure that really resonates well with them. And I'm sure that, you know, it sounds amazing that as a graduate, that's how you feel and that you've got that kind of energy. So hopefully people can kind of take that on board. So it's funny, let's stay with you, Joe, because you mentioned imposter syndrome. And kind of the next question is like, well, I guess it's have you overcome imposter syndrome? But I guess you're currently still working on it. So what techniques are you using right now? And what kind of battles with imposter syndrome do you think there are that others might also face?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think we'd all be lying if we said we hadn't had imposter syndrome at some point in our lives. And it's kind of like, it is just a kind of unwarranted sense of insecurity and feeling like your accomplishments or your achievements aren't actually worthy of the recognition that they get. And coming to Checkout and not having the kind of like a lot of experience, I felt like, oh, you know, well, everyone else knows what they're doing. When are they going to call my bluff? And that's a really bad mentality to have, because when you do something wrong, it kind of reinforces that feeling of inadequacy, and it stops you from, I suppose, engaging with the team and sharing your ideas, because you don't feel adequate enough to do so. And so I think what's been really useful for me, and I think what my advice would be, is to ask for feedback, because when you do get that feedback, and for example, if I speak to my manager and find out that I have, you know, if there is that positive feedback, it backs up that you are doing a good job, and you're more likely to believe it if it comes from someone that you respect, and it quashes that doubt that you're not good enough. So I think always ask for feedback and trust in your ability.
Great. Anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, I think Joy's absolutely hit the nail on the head. Definitely ask for feedback early and often, and kind of don't take it personally. It's absolutely to help you grow. I also think that we have to kind of maybe take a step back and remember that any job you have, you're there because you're qualified. Like, people don't hire people for fun. Like, we hire qualified people. You absolutely deserve to be in the room. You absolutely deserve to share your perspective, to bring your experience to the table and help the company to innovate and do new things. That's why we're here. I think that we also have to kind of think sometimes about what we have to give. I think sometimes if I think of, okay, I need to do something that is, you know, like public speaking, like today, it's not my favorite thing, but it's not about me. It's like, what can I give to the audience? What can I help you to learn from me being in the room? So if it is that I'm in a meeting and I'm like, oh, I'm the only person, for whatever aspect that may be, I'm the only Black person in the room, I'm the only woman in the room, that actually adds value. So I will have a perspective that other people don't have just by my different life experience. So I think when I think of imposter syndrome, I think of, right, that's actually an opportunity. And then there's also an opportunity to kind of reframe that. So the physiological experience for your body is actually the same if you're nervous or excited. And you tell your body how to deal with that, right? So we can just say, I'm excited about this opportunity to speak to however many people today, and I'm not nervous. So that's how I kind of get over imposter syndrome. And I think, like Joy said as well, so yes, asking for feedback and also having a really great team around you. I think we're really lucky that our colleagues are absolutely amazing, and people are willing to give you that feedback, are willing to tell you, oh, hey, here's how I would do this. You know, here's what I've learned. Here's who you can speak to who can help you get things done. and people are kind of willing to go above and beyond, which is one of our values, in sharing things and being, again, completely transparent and helping you to get things done to the best of your ability, because we all have the same goal, which is for the company to be great. And that really works by us working together. Amazing.
Jean-Marc?
Yeah, you know, like this imposter syndrome topic, like, is a huge one. I think that it's, for me, like, feeling the imposter syndrome is coming, I think it's coming from the fact that at some point people may think that they have like a weakness. I believe that acknowledging the fact that there is a weakness is a first step to actually transform it within a strength. As Joy and Camilla said, I think it's very important to acknowledge this and to be sure that if we want to learn new things or to get rid of this syndrome, you just have to actually ask a lot of things to actually learn and be sure that you can get rid of this syndrome. So it's something that can be worked on for people. It's not like in French we have like kind of an expression, but we say like it's meaning like it's not the end of the world, basically. But yeah, as long as people are acknowledging this and want to transform it within a strength, I think they can do it, and it's just a matter of willingness to do so.
I think so far in this conversation on imposter syndrome, we haven't touched on the fact that obviously in some companies there are microaggressions. You know, there are people who make others feel like, yeah, you shouldn't actually be in this role, or you're the diversity hire, or you know, like every work that's given is scrutinized. So I guess continuing this conversation, like, Anselm, what's your views on that? And again, if people are battling imposter syndrome because of those reasons too, what kind of solutions do you have?
Sure. Yeah, I think it is a very important, topic. It's something I think I'll challenge anyone to say that at some point in their life they haven't sort of dealt with or felt. But I think, before you can really deal with this, for me, and this is something that helped me, personally, I think it's really important that you kind of define who you really are as a person, whether that's as a professional person or who you are personally. What I'm talking about here is really defining your values, your mission, the kind of person you are. Because I think, in order to really kind of display your true, authentic self, it's you need to be very clear on what your values are. And I think the sweet spot in terms of working for a company or joining an organization is when you can kind of have values that are aligned to the company's or the organization's values itself. And I think that's when you really start kind of moving ahead with your career. But I think firstly it's extremely important to kind of define your values as a person. And I mean, personally, I think, we can't obviously control other people's actions or other people's thoughts. We can only kind of educate and raise awareness to certain issues like this one. But I genuinely believe that, as a company, if the company has, various ways or various unique ways of looking at a business issue or a situation, you're probably more likely to land on a solution that works for the broader market if as a person or if as an organization you have people who are being their authentic selves. And I always remember, when I kind of heard the question, I always remember what someone, a mentor of mine very earlier on in my career told me. And really, I think, his words kind of ring true in this sense as well. What he mentioned to me was that, there's a time and place for everything that you bring to the table. Ultimately, mimicking other people is not the option. But really, it's all about kind of bringing your best self to work and kind of, being accurate with the timing. It's great to have, all these amazing qualities, but in some situations, certain qualities are not necessary. And in other situations, I think it's better to kind of put that quality forward. But ultimately, I think, the key really is, have preset defined values. You know, I remember when I was, you know, looking for, you know, when I was on the job hunt, you know, over 2 years ago before I joined Checkout, one of the most important things to me was you know, the company's culture, making sure that I got a clear understanding of the company's values. And of course, not every company puts this on their you know, on their job description, and not every company puts this on their website. But I think, you know, from an interview, you can really get a sense of exactly what sort of company, you know, you're potentially going to work for by the questions that you ask, by the reaction to certain questions or the way they asked you the questions. But I think, yeah, you know, it's something that we all dealt with. I think probably more so for myself, much earlier on in my life. You know, I went to a school where, you know, Black kids were very much in the minority, and you know, as a young guy coming from Nigeria, you know, it was very difficult for me to kind of fit in initially. But you know, I think once I kind of got to know myself very well, I think, you know, then kind of I set my values, and yeah, you know, I think dealing with imposter syndrome was you know, became a lot easier overall. Okay. I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, if people have questions, make sure you put it in. That will dictate how much Q&A we save for the end. You know,
I think really quickly as well, if you don't mind, KK, so to build on what Anselm said, I think what's also important is to find community. So find people that you can kind of share these things with, and, you know, build those networks across the company. I think just having supporters and cheerleaders, whether that is your friends in the company or your team, really can help you to figure out the best way to deal with whatever it is that you're kind of faced with. And even if it's, you know, like a business question that you can't answer, or maybe a meeting that didn't go well, or maybe someone that you can't necessarily find a way through with because you have a different communication style, just having people that you can kind of throw those ideas against really helps you to kind of overcome whatever those hurdles might be.
Yeah, I love that. I think that, you know, this is a very important topic, and I think everybody does face this. You know, I like to say that, you know, me personally, I just back myself. And what I mean is that no matter what, I'm just like, I got this. You know, like, you know, you just have to go and put yourself out there and try and just not really care. It sounds weird. It's a mindset shift, right? And you have to work on your mindset. And just kind of, I think someone said everyone's blagging it. So if you realize that everyone's blagging it, then you're okay. But it is something that we do face a lot in our community, but also as women too. And I do think it's something people have to actively work on. It's not something you can just be like, oh, I'll be fine. You have to maybe say your affirmations, and you have to speak to other people about how you're feeling and what you're facing, because that in itself will eat you up. And I think this leads very well onto the next question, which kind of touches on the fear of success, or the fear of failure. And I think both of these are crippling. Some people don't think about the fact that some people have a fear of actually succeeding. Maybe somebody doesn't want to go for that leadership role because they think, oh, what if I actually do well, and then it comes with all the attention? Or the opposite of, okay, what if I take it and I actually fail? And that's also embarrassing, and that in itself is crippling. And I think that's why a lot of people don't take that leadership jump, or they don't trailblaze. So I guess, you know, let's start with you, Camilla. What advice do you have for those people in the audience that are too afraid to make that leadership jump because of those fears?
I think really simply, just feel the fear and do it anyway. Like, why not you? Like I said before, and I know that I keep on kind of drawing back on this, but you have so much value to bring through your different life experiences, etc. Why not stand up and lead? And if you don't, someone else will, and you'll kind of just live with the regret of not doing it. So absolutely go for it. Take those opportunities, network, and kind of build those relationships so you can find people that can help you. Absolutely do it. You have so much value to bring. Why not? Why not step up?
Why not lead?
I think, like you've said, like everyone does have a level of fear anyway, but don't let that hold you back. Just absolutely still go for it. And I think if you can find a really great company like checkout.com, where people really are invested in you succeeding, and where you will find really great colleagues that can help you to, like I said, to get things done or help you navigate the company. Obviously right now, everyone that is joining us, and we've had so much growth over the past however many months, but everyone that is joining remotely. So it is tougher, where you can't necessarily meet people in person, where you can't interview in an office and kind of see what those dynamics are like. Like if I think back to when I joined the company back in July last year, I was able to kind of interview at 6 p.m. after my day job at the time had finished, and I could kind of walk through the office and see, oh wow, there are people that are, you know, still working together, they're collaborating on this table. and there's, you know, maybe someone playing ping pong over here or whatever was going on, I was able to kind of pick up those dynamics, and we can't do that right now. But if you can still find a way of building those connections and maybe reaching out to someone and finding out what it is like to work for that company. So maybe reaching out to me on LinkedIn, I actually don't mind, and asking those really key questions and finding out, you know, what is the company talking about on LinkedIn, trying to pick up on that culture anyway. I think I've transitioned into another question, but, but I think those are ways that you can kind of overcome that fear. So finding people who have done things that you want to do, find those people who have done it before, see what it is that they're talking about, what they're interested in, upskill. So learn, like if there's something that you're scared of, I think it's because you care. So again, like with me doing public speaking, I get nervous because I care and I want to add value. So maybe it is like reading an article about public speaking or watching someone who does it well and thinking, okay, what is it that they do that I can maybe learn? So if there's something that you're scared about, I think education is key there. So learn more about it, and that will hopefully help to quash that fear.
Oh, anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was like, oh, sorry. Go on, please.
I wouldn't be too long. I think for me, you know, I'm a big fan of sports analogies. I think the best way to kind of think about it is, you know, really, you know, when you think about the fear of success versus the fear of failure or this kind of topic in general, you know, taking the leap, you know, the way I really think about it is, you know, I think it's really about playing not to lose versus playing to win. Both are essentially risky strategies. You know, if you play to not to lose, you know, maybe that's a defensive strategy. Whereas if you play to win, I think, you know, you can obviously trailblaze a lot further. You know, I think both are risky strategies. Ultimately, the latter is a riskier strategy. So, you know, there's not, you know, I think we all have our individual insecurities or fears when it comes to kind of, you know, taking a leap or moving into, you know, a new dimension. But honestly speaking, I think, you know, the way you have to look at your career and perhaps life as well is really, you know, playing to win. I think if there is an opportunity for you, you have to kind of think about grabbing it. You know, opportunities are few and far between, I think, for all minorities, especially you know, Black communities in general. So I think, yeah, it's really all about playing to win. And I know this kind of ties into the previous around the imposter syndrome or having the imposter syndrome. I think this is another way to kind of look at it as well. You know, ultimately, you know, whether it's your career, whether it's your life, you always have to kind of be able to kind of tap into those opportunities. And honestly, you know, I think one of the ethos in checkout.com, one of the main ethos in our company is kind of, you know, not having that you know, fear of failure. You know, I think, you know, you can probably, you know, I think it's fair enough to fail, but, you know, the lessons you learn in failure generally are good lessons that you can take on, you know, to further yourself generally. So for me, I think it's really about grabbing the opportunity. There's, you know, similar to Kike as well. I think, you know, for me, I think, why not? Just do it. Sometimes I think to myself, fake it till you make it. But ultimately, I think, yeah, it's really about grabbing those opportunities and moving forward with who you are and what you can offer.
Yeah, I love that. I think that bit on fear of failure, I do think you kind of have to fail to then not have a fear of failure or a fear of success. Because once you've gone through a big failure, it's like, and you didn't die, you know, you're still here. It's like, okay, like let me try again. And I don't want to maybe feel that feeling again. Or if I do, I know I can overcome it because I've done it before. And I always said it on, you know, along my journey, like as a sports person, all we did was fail. And then we had one big win. And then suddenly, you know, the whole season was incredible. And really, it was like 20 losses and one win. And I think that's the mindset people do have to have. Like, you can't really be afraid of failing because you have to fail to learn lessons and then to make that next big jump. So yeah, it'd be great to hear from you, Jean-Marc.
Yeah, I think what you have said, the three of you, like, is very important, because the very simple answer to that question is like, you just have to do it. Basically, that's what Camilla said, and what you just said also is very important, because I think it is definitely like a mindset and a cycle you are entering to, if you choose to actually do it or not. And basically, if you're telling to yourself that you will not be able to success in a specific project, in a specific company or so, you will just enter a mindset and a cycle where when you will have to take a decision, I mean, maybe you will just see yourself as a loser because you were not able to actually take a decision like a few days, months, years ago. So it's just about having the right mindset. I'm someone who has failed. Like I failed the company I've launched basically, and as you say, Kika, is like when you have failed once, you know that you didn't die, and that you can basically move forward for any other decision you are making. So yeah, the simple answer is like you just have to do it, and even by any chance if you fail, like you will learn something from yourself, from you will learn something that will help you to actually overcome what you've encountered, and you will be able to move forward.
Cool. And Joy?
Yeah, I think all of the good advice has been said here. I was kind of keen to hear the others' answers on this one because I've never really seen myself as much of a leader. So, you know, but I think I don't think that people are born leaders. It's like any other skill. You've got to kind of just do it and fail and practice it. And I think the first step to anything, like the first step to anything that you want to do, is the hardest. So I think it's just taking that first step.
Amazing. And we've just put a poll to ask how many of you have ever like faced imposter syndrome. So it will be good to see. There's about 70 people on here, so would love to hear from you guys. And I guess, again, going into this whole fear of success, fear of failure, and this topic being on trailblazing, essentially taking control of your career. Again, when I think of my own journey, it was very much like I started working, like I said, in FinTech, and I just felt like I could do so much more. Like I could feel it in myself, like I have more to give. And that's kind of what led to creating BYP Network and just creating my own career, essentially. And I think there must be so many of you on this call that feel the same way, that maybe you're currently in a workplace, but you know that you're just stagnant, or you're coasting, or you're not really giving all that you can, or maybe you want to, but the organization isn't allowing you to. And there is that fear of like, okay, you know, I can't really move to another career because, you know, it's COVID-19, I should be grateful for what I've got right now. But actually, you do have to take control of your career. You have one life to live. And if you kind of feel stuck or miserable and you don't fulfill your potential, then, you know, you only live with regret. So I guess for the panelists, like, what practical tips can you give to the audience regarding taking control of their careers? Let's go for Jean-Marc.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Kika? Sorry.
Sorry, what practical tips can you give the audience regarding taking control of their careers?
I think, as Anselm was saying a little bit earlier, for me it's like very important to actually know yourself to move forward in your career. So I think that one of the tips I could give is to ask feedback about you to other people within, like, in your family, your colleagues or anything, just to be sure that you are aware of how people are seeing you, and be able to work on this feedback in order to know yourself a little bit more and know how to move forward, basically. I think it's very, very important to actually to know if you know yourself.
So how do people get to know themselves?
You can do this just by asking to other people, basically, or maybe going like to a yoga retreat or something. But I'm not.
I like that. I think Jean-Marc's completely right. Like, the thing is, you have to decide what it is that you want. It makes it so much easier for you to then take the steps that you need to go out and get it. That is literally step one. Like, figure out what it is that you want, and then you can work backwards. So like I said, I think we're in an age where things are virtual. We're really lucky. Like, we've got everything kind of at the touch of our fingertips. So the internet really is your friend. Like I said, if there's someone that is doing your dream job, have a look at their profile on LinkedIn and see what it is that got them to where they are. So what steps have they taken? It's not necessarily that your journey is going to be the same, but you can see if there are kind of key themes and key threads. So for me, for example, hey, I wanted to get into internal comms, and I can look at maybe 10 LinkedIn profiles for people who are in internal comms. And if I can see, okay, there are key things that they have that's similar and kind of run across all of those, all of their backgrounds, then maybe that's something that I may want to upskill in. So figure out what it is that you want, and then just kind of work backwards. Use the internet to kind of help you. You can also network on LinkedIn and online and reach out to people and just say, you know, hey, what does a typical day look like for you? I would really like to learn. Obviously don't have that as your opening message, like generally meet people in a nice way first, but, you know, get there as well. Ask people the questions that you want. I think most people are quite open and happy to help you if you come to them in a humble way and you're genuinely wanting to learn, and maybe give them a couple of compliments along the way. That doesn't hurt. But yeah, I think just don't be afraid to do it. People will help you along the way if you ask for help. And another thing about taking control of your career, I think definitely keep learning, utilize those transferable skills. So for me, moving from, like I said, fashion buying and merchandising to HR, which can seem like two really random different careers, I had transferable skills. So there were things that I was doing in fashion merchandising that were absolutely relevant to HR. And then there have been things that, oh look, so many people have experienced imposter syndrome. 73% of people have experienced it and 18% are still experiencing it. Look, we're not alone. We all go through the same things, right? That's what this has really shown.
Wow.
And just something on what you were saying around like the fact that people will not take the same journey, etc., and we have to know ourselves. But I think it's part of the answer of the very first question there is in the chat, basically, where so Akko is asking about like which would be like a better choice, a promotion like financially and title wise in a developing country, or remain at a lower job level but in a developed country for the other societal benefits. Like this question for me is like very it's basically, for me, it's only you basically can answer this question, because it's part of what you want and part of how you see your career, which can grow, how you see yourself. You will be able for me to get some advice or feedback from other people, but at the end, only you will be able to actually answer to this question. Where will you be? Where will you fit? And yeah, so.
Wow.
Well, one other thing as well, just really quickly, so there are different ways to lead. So if you think of, like Joy has said, like she's fresh out of uni, but has already come into a company like ours and has taken that leadership opportunity. So look for those opportunities to step up. If you come to a company and you see, hey, this isn't being done, that's a fantastic opportunity. Go do it. Go step up. Like Joy stepped up, you know, a couple of months, I think, after joining our company, and was like, you know, her and Anselm stepped forward and said, we would love to have a Black community. So they've absolutely created space for us to talk about more of what matters to us. So, you know, it's the beginning of Black History Month today, which is specifically why we chose to do this webinar today. It's also Nigerian Independence Day. So happy Independence Day to all of our Nigerian friends. But, you know, I think it is about just creating that space for yourself and looking for those opportunities. And that is a great way to be a leader. You may not have a manager title straight away, but if you can demonstrate those leadership qualities from other things, so i.e. being a community leader, which is our version of an employee resource group, or maybe taking on a mentorship opportunity, or if you see that there are new people coming in and there's something that they keep finding is missing, maybe there's an opportunity for you to kind of step up and talk about what it is that your department does. So kind of step up in different ways. And those are skills that you can lean on that will help you in your path to leadership. Those are really great things that work. Those are those transferable skills that I keep talking about.
And who else hasn't commented? But just before we do, I mean, yeah, those poll results are quite, yeah, like that hit me. That's just 10% of people said they have never experienced imposter syndrome, or they're not going through it. I mean, that in itself just tells us what we're battling here, right? And you know, this webinar is all about trailblazing and taking control of your careers, but you know, there's a bigger battle here. There's this feeling of not feeling adequate enough, or not feeling like the right person, and I think that has to be tackled, right? That has to be tackled in our community. And all the tips that our panelists are sharing are things to really, really listen to and do research on. And I think just starting with that, how do I tackle this imposter syndrome so that I can make that leadership jump, or I can be the leader that I am supposed to be, is super important. You know, there's opportunities right now at checkout.com, which I know some people are interested in, but maybe you might not even apply because you're thinking, maybe I don't deserve the role, but you absolutely do, and they want you to apply. And that's the same for other companies as well. So I think that is a moment to really take in that you are not alone, as Camilla said, and there's 70 of us on this call, this webinar, and who can genuinely say they felt the same way. So, you have to take control of your careers. And I think the first tip is to tackle that imposter syndrome, and Joy, what would you like to add?
I think like for both what Jean-Marc and Camilla said are really good points about taking control of their careers. But I think one of the things that I've noticed is just like trusting my instinct and not succumbing to the pressure of what people around me are doing. Because I think, like I mentioned, just when you come straight out of uni, there's a massive pressure to go straight into a grad job, and kind of like it's a pressure that you put on yourself, but it's also maybe from your parents as well. So get a grad job, work in the city, whatever else. And you go on LinkedIn, you see people that you grew up with doing different things, and it's easy to compare. But I think it's like there's so much value in just taking some time to figure out what's important to you, like what's important, what you want out of a job. You have to acknowledge whether it's growth, whether it's personal development, whether it is just money. You have to figure out like what it is that's important to you. And I think that is a really kind of powerful thing.
Amazing. And have we missed anyone? Anselm, did you add to this?
No, I didn't. But I'd really echo what Jean-Marc said. I think, a yoga retreat is amazing if you want to figure out who you are. But no, I'm joking. I mean, I think honestly, leadership comes in different forms. I mean, throughout my career, I've come across leaders who are great at executing. So if that's more or less your thing, I think it's a good way of kind of taking control of your career, making sure that if this is your selling point, as some people say, that's one thing you can offer an organization. Some people are top strategists. Some people are great managers. Some people are more or less diligent in their work. So I think for me personally, that's really how you can start thinking about taking control of your career. Find what you're good at, discover what your secret sauce is, and try and align that with your day-to-day work. Whether that's no task is really too small. So I think really just kind of stepping up and understanding this is what I can offer, this is what I can bring to the table, and shaping your career kind of around that. That's one of the ways I think you can take control of your career, and one of the ways that I think personally is really helped me. It's important to kind of identify your strengths and weaknesses. The strengths because you want to keep kind of offering those strengths, and the weaknesses because at least you have something that you can improve on. And once you kind of get a good understanding of your secret sauce or your selling point, then I think that's a start to really taking control of your career.
Amazing. And I think we need to go into asking the audience some questions. I think it got really deep, and I'm personally really enjoying this webinar. I feel like it's such a safe space. But yeah, we have I've just launched another poll just to say, do you feel like you've learned some tips about how to become a trailblazer? And if you haven't, that's fine. Please do let us know, and let us know what you'd like to hear. But in the meantime, let's have some people who are on this call jump on and ask their questions. So let's start with Phoebe Benter.
Hi, it generally wasn't a question. It was just listening to what everybody had to say tonight. And it does resonate with me. Obviously, I'm completely in a different company industry, but I would definitely say take control of your career and show initiative and asks. So everything that everybody's saying here really stands out with me, because I've been in my current role for 3.5 years. And over that time, I've been promoted twice. And that's not because management say, here you go, you're doing well. It's because each time I've gone into HR and say, this is why I should be promoted and this is why I should get a pay rise. And twice it's been a battle, but twice I've got what I wanted. So I'd just say, honestly, no one's going to go around and hand out jobs and say, you know, you've been doing well. You really have to put that work in and show initiative. And that's what I've done and managed to carve a way in this industry that I work in, medical devices and marketing, as a Black female young person. And over coronavirus as well, managed to get another promotion. So again, just ask, do the work, and show initiative. And the worst thing that I always say, the worst thing that could happen is they're going to say no, and then, you know, you just carry on and don't take anything too personally. And sometimes it's probably not the right time. Somebody mentioned having to train somebody in a role, and they said, you know what, why can't I do it? So I really thought that was something really good. And how you responded in terms of you didn't get it, you had carried on. So I thought that was really positive, and something that I've taken from this. But definitely just ask. And the worst that could happen is they say no, and you just carry on. And I've found as well, just being a part of a professional networking group outside my work has been really good for those upskilling and things like that. So no, really, really good session tonight. I just wanted to say that before I jump off. I have another meeting. But thanks so much for organizing this. It's my first one, and hopefully I will join another one soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Can we hear from Joyce?
Congratulations on all of those promotions. That's fantastic, Phoebe.
It was hard. It was hard work. But yes, my current new title now is I work for the global team. So I look over after all the global digital marketing for a medical company. And again, it's because I asked and put myself out there. So just do it, you know, don't be scared. And with the imposter syndrome, I did have that earlier in my career. And then I just realized, you know, there's no point in being scared. No one's ever going to do it for you. So just, you know, yeah, go for it.
Thank you. Can we also get Joyce, please, to ask her question?
Yeah. Hi. It's not really a question. So I'm French. No, I'm French, and I'm very happy to be able to see a Black community online. It's fantastic. We're missing that in Paris, in France, so that's very good. I'm in London for 15 years. And as you can see, I haven't picked up on the language. It's very difficult for me to get the accent, but that's the way it is. I've been project manager for years, and for big companies like Global Blue, Thomson Reuters, EasyJet. It's just to say that I'm not English, but I managed to join those companies. I felt hard initially because I was very shy to put my voice ahead. But I remember I had to jump into the board just to replace someone who was sick. And when I sat on that board, I just noticed that actually people were not so clever and were not saying very clever thing. You know, when you are just executing your work, you just imagine that the chief and the boss are very clever, saying things that you can't even understand. And I was shocked actually to be able to say, what? I could have said that, I could have done that. And from that day, it really changed my life, because I just say, why feeling this being a fraud? Because actually what I do is very good and even excellent. And it just gives me the confidence to actually step a bit forward a bit more. It was just to say that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Joyce. I think that's like such a good point, right? A lot of people say that you get into an organization and you're feeling like, oh my God, maybe I can't do it. And then those around you maybe aren't even as smart as you, or you're thinking, how did you make that mistake? And again, it's because a lot of people go for those leadership positions, even if they're not qualified. I think they say females especially have to, like, they need to tick off 90% of a job spec to want to apply, whereas some men can just, 50% or 40% and like, yeah, I can do that. And it's these kind of things that we need to think about. Like, you are qualified for the role. You tend to be underestimated, especially as Black people. And we underestimate ourselves, but you have one life, why not go for it, right? The worst thing that can happen is that maybe you're right, it wasn't for you and you have to find a new role. So thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Let's go back to some of the questions before. Is Akoh, am I saying it right? Akoh, are you still here? To ask your question. I'm going to ask him to start his video. 1 second. Okay, I'll ask his question. I can't seem to unmute him. Okay, which would be a better choice? A promotion, financially and title-wise, in a developing country, or remain at a lower job level, but in a developed country, for the other societal benefits? And maybe, Anselm, you might be able to answer that. Not saying that yours led to less money, but...
No, I think, honestly, similar to what Jean-Marc said, this is a really personal question. I think, you know, in order to kind of get to the right answer for yourself, you need to kind of understand what you're trying to do or where you're trying to go in your career. I mean, personally, I'm from a developing country, naturally. You know, I'm Nigerian, born in Nigeria, raised a little bit in Nigeria. So for me, you know, the shift working in a less developed, I wouldn't call the UAE a developing country, but probably less developed than the UK or the US. The shift wasn't that difficult for me. Culturally, it was a little bit different. But when I think about it, title-wise, financially, that was not so much so the reason for me moving. It was really, I think I'm the kind of person that, you know, I like to experience new things in life. I like to kind of try different things. I like to go where no one has been. So we kind of just aligned with what I wanted to do career-wise. You know, remain at a lower job or lower level job in a developed country. Again, that's completely, you know, up to you. I would say, you know, you have to weigh out your options, whether you see a sense of progression in the developed country, whether, you know, you think that there's much for you to gain in a developing country. It's something that you have to kind of, you know, align with what you want. You know, I think it was obviously a lot easier for myself as well. I don't have anything major tying me down to, I didn't have anything major tying me down to the UK. I mean, I have family there, but you know, it's not like I had kids or anything that I needed to kind of uproot. It was just solely my decision to make, and I was the only decision maker in that process. So I think, yeah, for yourself, Akko, I think you just need to kind of think about what exactly it is that you're trying to achieve. I also have friends here in the UAE who move here with their family for, yes, you know, a better job financially and job title wise. And yeah, you know, for them, I don't see any regrets. Some of them have lived here for 7-8 years. So I think, yeah, it's really a personal decision. At the same token, I also have a friend who's just moved back to the UK a few weeks ago after being here for 5 years. So, you know, it's really about understanding what it is you're trying to attain. Obviously, you know, financially, title wise, you know, there's lots to gain there. But, you know, I think, you know, there's also something to say about stability, being close to family and things of that nature. But, you know, if you ask me personally, if I had to answer the question, I would say a promotion in a developing country to be short and sweet. But yeah, there's multiple factors to consider before making this sort of decision.
Wow, thank you. I think also the opportunity to work abroad, like, you know, in a very different country, is something we shouldn't pass up, in the sense that the amount of development you have as an individual, you know, and I think that's something to also think about. Like, actually, is it worth going outside of your comfort zone to work in another country and get that experience? So maybe it's not always a financial question, it's a personal development question. But thank you for answering that. There's a question here, but it's more to do with checkout.com. So maybe, you know, someone who can answer. I'm not too sure if anyone can, but there's a question on what is the percentage of employees with a programming background opposed to non-programming, and within the programming team, what's the diversity ratio? So it's quite an intense question that probably should go to like HR, and maybe we can let you guys know that. But if you're someone who wants to apply for a role, you know, here's people right now that you can kind of reach out to on LinkedIn, or, you know, contact checkout.com, and their roles are also on our job board. We have a question here from Essie. I don't know if she wants to, again, ask the question in front of everyone. Let me just see. Essie, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, everyone. It's a guy, actually. It's not a girl.
My bad, sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. My question is very straightforward, because I'm in the oil and gas sector of the energy industry, and I'm asking for personally, I'm just starting out trying to get a job and stuff. What approach would you recommend for trailblazing in my field?
What's your field? I didn't get it, sorry.
Oil and gas engineering. Did you get it?
Does anyone have advice? I know it's a different industry, so it might be quite a tough one for them to answer. I think
you're muted.
say something, or Joy say something. So,
I think Camilla, I could see Camilla starting to say something, but she's muted.
go on, Camilla.
Sorry, thank you, Joy. I was muted. That doesn't help, does it? I think just leaning on the advice that we've given earlier, I think it translates across industries. So what we've said so far, yes, it is very much relative to our company, which does have kind of a flat hierarchy and I guess a lot more opportunities for progression because it is kind of a young industry. However, I think there are still going to be opportunities that you can use and utilize to step up. So again, like we've said, seek out those kind of leadership opportunities, find a way to do something that may not have been done before. I haven't worked in oil and gas, but perhaps because it is an older industry, you may need to jump through a little more hoops than if you worked kind of in our company where things are a little bit easier to kind of get things done and people are really open to innovation and new ideas. However, I still think there is that opportunity where you can absolutely blaze a trail and show people maybe you do need to kind of prove things a little bit more before you can get things done, but there's still absolutely an opportunity to kind of step up and blaze your own trail.
Okay, thank you very much. I actually listened to a webinar earlier today and they said something about making sure that I get my project work done like excellently. That could be a way of getting into the industry like head on or full on. Like I should make sure I have something that's relevant and I deliver it properly. So I think that's also a way to get it done. Thank you for your advice.
Amazing. Does anyone have anything to add to that, or is that?
Yeah, quickly, if I may come in. Just an advice for SE. That industry is a regulated one. So even much more than your history of having completed a project is your compliance record. So start racking up compliance. There are things called OJT, whatever you are on the job training, pick it up as quick as you can. Then in engineering, start ticking all the boxes. Your safety, number one, the safety certifications, number one. Then pick up a body and look very well and pick the nice person. Well, because that's quite important. Now, body in system is another good thing that is important in that industry, because then you're gonna, if you now want to pick up your own body, that's like a mentor, so to speak. Let your mentor be somebody that is maybe a manager.
I think you can mentor him. So make sure.
I wouldn't mind that. I'd really love that.
Amazing. Okay, guys, so we're nearing the end, and
Thank you, Akin.
All right.
Guys get connected, but we're nearing the end. I think we have a few more questions, but I think the question that we should probably end on for the panel is, you know, there's this debate between being a trailblazer or you can't be what you can't see. So my final question is, why have you chosen trailblazing? And again, what advice can you give to everyone on this webinar on choosing to be a trailblazer versus waiting for the trailblazer for them to be able to now, you know, grow their careers? Let's start with Camilla.
I think we have to open doors for ourselves so that we can open doors for others as well. Like, representation is so important in whatever sphere that may be. So I think just step up, like I said earlier, feel the fear and do it anyway, because you being there adds so much value for other people kind of coming up behind you. So unfortunately, we're in 2020 and there's still, you know, first Black woman to do this, first Black person to do this. There's still a lot of room for firsts. So that's a good and a not so good thing, I think. But, you know, step up, do it, take that opportunity, and worry about the fear afterwards. You know, there's that, is it Nike that say feel the fear and do it anyway? Our CEO loves a good quote.
Joy?
Yeah, I think, do you know what, for me, I'm the eldest of 4 siblings, and I think just being the first person to do something is so kind of instrumental in leading the way. And I've noticed it in my siblings and seeing how they view like just life overall. And I think that when you do something like that, you have to be kind of sure in yourself and have a confidence, because it pushes you to do things that you otherwise thought were not possible. And I think that's the key thing here, is having a confidence in your abilities.
Thank you, Anselm.
Yeah, I think that firstly I have to give a big shout out to my parents. To be honest, I think I was always raised to think about how I can trailblaze, whether that started from school, from a very young age. It was something that always kind of, you know, was spoken about in you know, on the family dinner table. You know, I don't know if you guys have similar examples, but you know, when even in primary school, when I was back in Nigeria, if I came third out of a class of 24 people, my parents would be like, "Why didn't you come first?" So that sort of thing was just something that always kind of stuck with me from a young age. In terms of, you know, advice that I could give people, in terms of smashing the glass ceilings, you know, or really around the question, trailblazer versus you can't be what you can't see. I think sometimes, you know, seeing is overrated. Completely agree with Camilla's point. I think representation is extremely important, but I think, you know, another quote from our CEO, he often says imagination is more important than knowledge. I think, you know, if you can, you know, if you can see yourself, if you can visualize certain positions, or you can visualize where you want to go in your career or in your day-to-day life, that's something that you know, you should work towards, or try as much as you can to have these visuals in your mind. I think that's a really important trait. Sometimes, you know, again, you know, we quite often see first Black woman to do this, or first Black person in this position. But generally speaking, I think, you know, if you see yourself in a position, you should not kind of, you know, have second thoughts about it. You know, move forward with things and see, you know, again, I think everyone has something to offer, and it's all about really just putting yourself in the limelight and moving ahead with this. So yeah, visuals are extremely important in this topic in general. But yeah, you know, it's something, you know, being a trailblazer, it's something that I think, yeah, from a young age, it was very much kind of drummed into my head. And you know, in terms of advice, I would tell people to kind of think about where they want to be, visualize it. Sometimes you don't need to see it. Sometimes you just have to think about where you want to go.
Amazing. And Jean-Marc?
So I would say, I think this answer will be like very, very much more personal than the answers I've gave, but I would say that I didn't see myself as a trailblazer or so, but when talking about it, I think I have been a trailblazer basically in being what I was not able to see when I was younger. And that's something I'm trying today to actually, I'm actually trying to provide what is needed for other people that are basically seeing me as a leader. Joyce, who had a question a little bit earlier, said that, you know, in France it's like totally different. Like the approach of being Black is totally different than in the UK. And what I'm trying to do today is get all the tools I can get, and like basically this this event is one of the tools, because I can tell you that when I'm posting something on LinkedIn saying that I'm participating to this kind of event, it's something that people in France are seeing. And I receive some messages like, what is this event? Okay, I can see like there will be like a lot of Black people, and it's slowly giving people the occasion to see that something is happening. And yes, so for me, like there is still a ceiling glass, there is still a work to do on representation, and that's something I'm trying also to do in France, basically.
Amazing, thank you. And maybe Camilla, tell us a bit more about checkout.com and the opportunities that are there, and kind of, you know, why people should apply or reach out to any of you guys so that they can kind of learn more about opportunities there.
Yeah, I think just speaking very personally, again, it's been really kind of career defining for me. So again, just having been here for just over a year, the things that I've been able to do, the people that I've been able to work with, have just been absolutely amazing. So working with our senior leadership team, being able to build those cross-team collaborative relationships, being able to learn about the payments industry. So again, like I said, I hadn't even heard of FinTech before. And I know that sounds really silly, but coming from a more generalist tech background, I think there's just so much opportunity. You know, we've grown from, I think we're only about 300 and something people at the time that I joined last year, and we're on our way to 1,000 in literally under a year. That's unheard of in the middle of a pandemic. You know, we've just, we've done so much things in such a short time, and you can really just have an accelerated career here. I think it's so exciting, and I hope that we've got that across to everyone, that this is something really amazing. Like it's hard to just kind of share with you just how much we're doing, but it is honestly the most exciting place to work. And I feel like a really lucky person every time I get to share with our new hires every single month when I meet them, like, this is what we're working on, this is what's coming next, here are all the great things that you can get involved in. But you can absolutely be entrepreneurial, like Jean-Marc said earlier, within a company like ours. It does have a kind of flat hierarchy, so there aren't that many layers between whatever level you are and the CEO. And people are really open to feedback. You know, we survey our employees every single month and ask them to say what is working, what isn't working, and we absolutely do things about it. So for me, I think just those opportunities make it a really great place to work. And hopefully, you know, just seeing myself, Joy, Anselm and Jean-Marc on the call today and getting to know us a little bit more, you can see the kind of people that work for checkout.com, and the fact that we do have a partnership with BYP. Like, we've actively said, we want to increase representation, and the company's putting money behind it. We're not just saying, oh, it's Black History Month, great. You know, we didn't do anything that was super performative, because we want to actually make statements that matter and show and put, you know, our money where our mouth is and do things about it. And that's what we've done.
Amazing. And just one last thing. I remember before you decided to work at checkout.com, you had another offer at a bigger organization. Sorry to put that out there. What made you go for checkout.com? What was it about, you know, the opportunity that you saw?
Okay, so obviously you can see that Kike and I know each other. Yes, I did. It was a weird one for me. So I did have more than one offer at the same time. And like I said, at the time, checkout.com, I guess, wasn't quite as big as it is now. And when I accepted the offer, this was before like the fundraisers and the acquisitions and things like that. So for me, and again, maybe this is just a little bit super vulnerable, but I didn't know about FinTech and just how amazing it is. But what made me choose the company was all of the people that I met along the way. So, you know, meeting my managers throughout the interview process and everyone else that I interviewed with. And I did see a diverse group of people that I was interviewed by at all different levels of the company. Like I said, going into the office and kind of meeting people along the way and really just buying into the company's mission too. At the time, it was kind of like build the future of banking. And now it's really talking about putting our merchants first and building the banking that businesses deserve. So really just buying into that whole thing and like all of the opportunity for growth and having that accelerated career. And like we've spoken about today, Joy coming in fresh out of uni, Anselm moving countries, all of that with our company in a short amount of time. Like, who wouldn't want to do that? It's been absolutely amazing. And there's so much more to come. We're on the precipice of even more growth. Why would you not want to join us?
How do I sign up?
Right?
Thank you so much, Camilla. And thank you to all our amazing panelists. Honestly, I'm inspired. And I just felt like this was such a nice conversation, very open, very vulnerable, very authentic. And again, anyone here listening, please do, you know, connect with them on the BIP platform, connect with them on LinkedIn, reach out to us if you have any questions. We will be sending your details to checkout.com so they can be in contact with you as well. But yeah, this is the end. Thank you guys so much. And hopefully I see everyone here at our leadership conference taking place at the end of the month, 30th of October. So happy Black History Month, happy Nigerian Independence Day, and happy life. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.